Weilà raga. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to yet another lesson in our Zero to Hero Italian grammar series, where, as I always say, we're looking at Italian grammar from the most basic of concepts and working our way up to the most advanced. We are now, once again, comfortably in those more advanced topics. I'm so excited to teach the Imperativo. I've got my notes here. I spent a good amount of time preparing what we're going to cover. And at this time, we're going to have 3 lessons of the Imperativo. So that's all to come. We're going to break it down step by step. Let's just go straight on over to the whiteboard. All right. So when I say imperativo, what does that even mean? So the imperativo is yet another mood in Italian. So we've discussed thus far the indicativo. The indicativo is when you indicate something. You're just stating a fact. So I'm going to say indicating, or I'm also going to say stating facts. There we go. And we also spoke about, most recently, the congiuntivo. So the congiuntivo is yet another verb mood. So indicativo is a verb mood, imperativo is a verb mood, and also the congiuntivo. What's the congiuntivo? This is when we're talking about doubts, uncertainty, and things of that sort. So we've got indicativo, congiuntivo, and now we're dealing with the imperativo. I love the imperativo. It's really cool. So I think you're going to see that as we go throughout how much I love it. What is the imperativo used for? This is for commands, orders, and invitations. So what does that mean in context? Like, how does that look actually in practice? I'm going to show you a few examples right away. Have you ever heard someone say, mangia? Or how about andiamo? Now, andiamo and mangia. You probably already know what these mean, and it could very well even be something that you learned before even formally learning Italian, right? Well, mangia means eat. And when you're saying mangia, who are you saying that to? Mangia, mangia. Well, it could depend on the context, because this is also something maybe you can hear like in, American films, let's say. I can't think of any in particular where they say it, but I feel like it could be in one. Like when they say capisce or stuff like that, or mangia. Or what about when we say andiamo, right? We know this is the noi conjugation, the noi form, rather, of andare conjugated in the present tense. What does this mean? It's like saying let's go, right? Notice how I'm not just saying we go, right? Because when you're inviting a group of people of which you are a part, and you say, andiamo, you're not just saying we go. You're saying let's go. It's like a call to action. You could say that's another usage of the imperativo. So orders, invitations, commands. And when you're telling someone eat, that's a command, right? It's an order. It doesn't mean that it's mean. Sometimes I think when we say command and order, we think someone's being bossy. But doesn't have to mean that. Doesn't have to mean that, rather. If you're saying eat, that's a really friendly invitation, right? It's telling you, yeah, go on ahead. So that's what the imperativo is. That's what the imperative mood is all about. This stuff right here. The one thing I just want to say, though, is when you say mangia, this is to one person. You don't say mangia to a group of people. That would be mangiate. If you're referring to a group of people, you'd say mangiate as a command. We're going to get to that. What we're going to do in the imperativo, because the are verbs have just a slight different way of looking at the verbs. So we're going to look first at ere and ire verbs, okay? So ere and ire verbs. When you're using these in the imperativo, there's nothing special happening. You just simply take a verb, put it in the noi or the voi form, and call it a day. You're good. So let's look at that in context. Let's first look at, I don't want to do venire yet. I want to do vedere. Yeah, let's do vedere. So vedere means to see. When we're using the imperativo, we focus on, for this lesson, 3 main pronouns. Because when you're giving a command to someone, who are you talking to? To someone else. Even when you're talking to yourself, you're calling yourself you, or you talk to yourself in the third person. It's someone else, right? So we use noi, tu, noi, and voi when we're doing our conjugations here. So just conjugate it normally. We're going to say tu vedi, noi vediamo, and voi vedete. Now the imperativo, generally speaking, is just used in the present tense. Just used in the present tense. Now what I like to do for my conjugated forms here, I like to put an exclamation point. That's how I differentiate it from the standard indicative when I'm just saying you see, right? Because if I have no context and I simply write vedi, I would tell you that this means you see. But there's another way of looking at this. When you just say vedi, you could also think of this as meaning simply see. But because it's in the tu form, it's referring to tu. Therefore, that's the person carrying out the action. But I want to encourage you to also look at vedi just as meaning see. But it is you are seeing. Hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. If it does, cool. You've just unlocked something pretty cool. Now, if I take see and put an exclamation point, we know that that's like, see? You're telling someone like, don't you see what this is? It's kind of like a command in a way. It's like I'm begging you to see something. I'm telling you, don't you see it my way? Don't you see it this way? So anyway, think of it that way. Think of this as meaning see. This as meaning let's see, because I want all of us in this group to see something. And this vedete, this would be see as well, but it's you guys see. It's like, guys, see? Don't you see? Kind of feels like that. Perhaps don't you see is not necessarily imperative in English, but that's what's coming to mind to explain it. So forgive me if it's not a pure imperative in English, but I'm just trying to exemplify it. So the rule here, it's very simple. If you want to take an verb and you want to put it in the imperative, just conjugate it as you normally would. So conjugate the verb as you would in the present. In the indicative present, that is, the indicativo, or presente. That's it. I like to put an exclamation point. I put an exclamation point to differentiate the form from the imperative. Okay. From the indicative, rather. Indicativo. I'm just going to move on because I think other verbs are better. I don't actually really like vedere, but that at least just explains what you do when you take the verb. Okay. Let's do venire. That's a better one. Okay. Venire is an ire verb. Simply take it and take a look at it in the tu, the noi, and the voi form. Now notice also, I'm not saying tu vieni like just tu next to vieni. I'm also purposely putting in a hyphen. That's not just for teaching. That's done on purpose. Well, I guess it is done for teaching, but because you're not going to write, necessarily write it like this way in a sentence. But I'm doing it to separate it, to show difference here. I'm saying instead, vieni, veniamo, venite, because I'm saying it simply as come. Let's come, guys. You guys, come. Just think of it as that way, okay? So I'm going to put it in this example. If I tell someone, vieni qua, what does that mean? Come here. This is different from me saying, you come here. I know for emphasis, we can say in English and Italian, you come here. Tu, vieni qua. You can do that. But it's not me saying, you come here often. You come here every summer. That's a statement of fact. That's indicative. This is a command. This is an order. This is an invitation. If I'm inviting you over, hey, come over here, right? You know how we do that in English? This can also be come over here. Come over here. I want you to come here. I am inviting you to do this. Vieni qui. So as you can see, this is actually really good to exemplify the difference between a tense and a mood, because the tense is the same. This is present tense, but the mood is different. Me saying, you come here to Italy every year. That's a statement of fact. Come here! I'm so happy you came here. Come here, please. Come closer. That's different. That mood is an invitation. Okay? You could be angry in that mood. Come here right now. You know, that's different. That's different in terms of like your emotion, but the mood is still command. Okay? All right, I'm going to stop with that. I think you guys got it. So basically, ere and ire verb, conjugate the verb as you normally do in the present tense. Happy days. Happy days. Okay. With parlare, I know I'm making it seem like there's something so special coming. There really isn't. It's a tiny, tiny, tiny little difference. Nothing really fancy going on here. We're going to have tu. We're going to have noi. I'm going to put these in again, the little dashes, and voi. I'm going to show you noi and voi first. They're normal. Parliamo, like, hey guys, let's talk. Like, parliamo l'italiano, dai ragazzi. Parliamo l'italiano. Like, let's speak Italian. Okay? This means let's speak Italian. Okay. Let's speak Italian, guys, right now. Parliamo l'italiano. Adesso. Now. Okay. Voi is going to be parlate. If I put that in context, I could say ragazzi. Ragazzi. Parlate. Let's just say parlate lentamente. Lentamente means slowly. So guys. Guys. Speak slowly. Okay? Ragazzi, parlate lentamente, okay? Per favore? You know, like that. The to form for all are verbs that are regular, okay? There are irregular verbs. We're going to look at that in another one of our lessons. But for all regular are verbs, the ending is a, okay? The ending is a. So tu is going to be parla. Parla. That just means speak. You, speak. You know? So if I tell you, I'm going to put the example over here. Parla italiano. After parlare, it is common to omit the definite article. Parla italiano. That's me saying speak Italian. Parla italiano. Perché stai parlando inglese? Ooh, that's good. All right, let's do that. Hold on. Let's do this real quick. Let's do a whole context here, okay? Let's really exemplify this. So I'm talking to you, all right? And I'm saying, che fai? Perché stai parlando l'inglese? Che fai? Perché stai parlando l'inglese? What are you doing? Why are you speaking English? Parla italiano. Va bene? Se no, non ti parlerò più. So this means, what are you doing? Why are you speaking English? Speak Italian, okay? If not, I won't talk to you anymore. Or I won't talk to you more, I won't talk to you again. It can have all those kinds of feelings. All of those kinds of translations. And feeling, yeah, why not? See how that works? Using parla here to mean speak Italian, as opposed to just gerundio here in the present, and then standard indicative present here, and then the future here. See that? Now, when I say parla, do you guys remember at the very, very, very top of the lesson, I showed you the example of mangia, which means eat? Yeah, that's why we say mangia for one person. Because are verbs, mangiare, what did we say just before? All regular are verbs, when they're in the imperativo, the conjugation for tu ends in a. So, mangia. Noi is going to be normal, mangiamo, and so is the voi, mangiate. So, conjugate the verbs as you normally would in the present. The only difference that we've seen so far is the adverbs end in A. The regular adverbs end in A. All right? Cool. So here's what we're going to do for this second and also last half of the lesson. We're going to look at how we give a negative command. So what have we done so far? So let's just recap what happened here. So a recap of our lesson as we're now coming to the end of the first half, beginning the second half, and then we'll close everything up. The recap here is this. When making an affirmative statement, so affirmative statements, what is an affirmative statement? This is telling someone to do something, okay? Telling someone to do something. Okay. All you have to do for ere and ire verbs, that looks really sloppy. So for affirmative things, for ere and ire verbs, what you do is conjugate them normally. Conjugate them in the present. That's it. So to give some more examples, I'm going to keep calling it presente. You can say vieni qui. Vieni qui, and that means come here. What about a different verb like leggere, right? I want to say read this. Leggi questo. Let's put another word in, articolo. Leggi questo articolo. Read this article. Come here. Nice. The other thing that is important to note in the imperative is that we focus on the following subject pronouns. Subject pronouns. I'm just going to write it like that, okay? We focus on tu, noi, and voi. We can also use lei, but we're going to do that in another lesson, okay? Lei with a capital L being the formal U. Because we're always giving a command to someone. Even if you're giving the command to yourself, you're going to call yourself tu. You're going to say, hey, Tom, do this, as in you, do this, Tom, now, like that. Now, when we're doing adverbs, just as we saw with parlare and also and mangiare, the tu form ends in A. That's it. Ends in A. The noi and voi forms stay the same, as in stay the same. They're the same as they always are. As they always are in the present. Okay, that doesn't grammatically make sense, but they stay as they always are in the present. Yeah, they stay the same as they always are in the present. You guys can follow. Yeah, you guys get it. So that's what we do. The only special rule we've seen so far is tu ends in a. That's it. Okay, cool. So what's this last half of the video? When we're making negative statements. Okay. Negative statements, it's very easy. There's just one special rule yet again for tu, but this time for all three verb groups and also for both regular and irregular verbs. I know we haven't looked at an irregular verb. We will, but not in this video because I want to keep this as simple and straightforward as possible because this is our foundation. This is our basis for everything that is to come. So for negative statements, here's what you do. For tu, do not conjugate or change the form of, do not conjugate the verb. Simply place non in front of the infinitive, which means non-conjugating, so it's still, which means non-conjugated, it's still going to have are, ere, or ire attached to it, in front of the infinitive form. So here's what you do. You say, non mangiare. You can say, non parlare. You could say, non scrivere. You could say non venire qui. You can say non parlare così. There you go. Non parlare così davanti a me. Davanti a me. Don't speak this way in front of me. Okay? Don't speak this way in front of me. This is all for two. All of these. For two, you do not conjugate the verb. So don't eat is this one here. Don't eat. Don't speak. Don't write. Don't come here. Don't talk like that in front of me. Don't speak that way in front of me. Okay? So it doesn't matter if the verb ends in are, ere, ire. Whatever. I could also say non essere così. Non essere così. Don't be like that. Don't be like that. Don't be like that. Ti prego. Ti prego means I beg you. I beg you. In other words, please. But yeah, I beg you. Cool, right? Pretty cool. Now, good news. For noi and voi, conjugate the verb like you normally would in the presente and call it a day. That's it. This half of the video is a lot shorter than the rest of it. So noi and voi, we're going to conjugate the verb. Conjugate the verb, as always, as a standard procedure, and place non in front. So yet again, it's going to look just like, any old form of Italian, right? If I say non andiamo adesso, forse, oh, this is actually good. Forse andiamo più tardi. Okay, so what could this mean? This could mean, let's see how we could translate this. Let's not go now. Maybe, this could be basically like saying maybe later, okay? Can have that as a translation. It could mean let's not go right now. Can also mean that. Maybe we'll go later. And now could I also say let's not go now, maybe let's go later. Yeah. So let's not go now. Maybe let's go later. Yeah, we do that a lot in English. Maybe let's go later. Put it like that. Yeah, let's not go now. Maybe let's go later. Okay? Non andiamo adesso. Forse andiamo più tardi. Cool, right? Pretty cool. Just to show you an example with voi, it's exactly the same thing. Simply take any verb. Let's say mangiare. We're going to say mangiate. Right? Simply put non in front of it. So non mangiate just means you guys don't eat. Don't eat that, right? I could say ragazzi or just raga, You know how I say Weilà raga? It's like saying guys. Some people also say rega, put a re in it. Some people write it with an accent. Raga. There you go. So, raga. There we go. Non mangiate quella pizza. Fa schifo. Okay? These are of a separate sentence, okay? I'm just putting that there. So, raga, guys, don't eat that pizza. It's disgusting. Fa schifo. It's not good. You could then say to them, aspettate per la mia pizza. Sarà buona. So now I'm using another command in the voi form, saying aspettate per la mia pizza. You guys, wait for my pizza. It's going to be good. Sarà buona. It's going to be good. Cool. So here above, we did something with non, a negative command. and this is an affirmative command. Yeah, so first the non is negative, and this is affirmative. I also like calling it positive. Positive also works for me. Affirmative, because positive, negative. I like how that lines up better than affirmative, negative. But there you have it. Cool. So guys, that's it. Great work. Great work. As is always the case, with any finer points of grammar, it's useful to go through a lesson more than once. I have what I call the famous 2 to 3 person rule. I'll have that video linked down below in the description. It's one of my favorite videos, one of my favorite concepts. Not only do I believe that you should ask at least more than one person, go to 2, if you can, go to 3, for like la conferma, for the confirm on if something is said or not and how is it said, how is it used, just to get that variety of opinion. I also believe when you're learning something new, don't just go through it once. Go through it at least twice. If you can, go through it 3 times. Because the first time, you're just kind of like scoping it out. What's happening? The second time, I can pay more attention. The third time, I can really drill into it, start asking myself questions, put things on pause, go back, start, using the video that way. That is what I think is a great way to set you up for success. All right, cool, guys. So thanks for tuning in and checking out this video. Be sure to check out all the other videos in this series and stay tuned for what is to come. I also have other videos on this topic on my channel, which you can check out, and I'll have linked down below. Always remember to spread the love, guys, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Ciao, ciao, ragazzi. Ciao.